My father's girlfriend, secretly planned a pink birthday party for my daughter who hates pink. When I refused to bring her, it exposed years of toxic control. My 5-year-old daughter Cleo has despised the color pink since she was 3, but my father's girlfriend Prue refused to accept this simple fact about a child she claimed to love. What started as annoying gift-giving had escalated into something far more sinister, a complete disregard for my daughter's autonomy that would eventually force me to choose between keeping peace in our family and protecting my child's emotional well-being. Cleo isn't your typical girly girl, but she's not a tomboy either. She loves princesses and cars equally, adores science and outer space, takes ballet classes where she's known as the Black Swan for being the only girl who wears black, and dreams of robots and dolls with equal enthusiasm. Her favorite colors are yellow and blue, and she owns exactly one pink shirt and one pink stuffed animal that she actually likes. Everything else pink gets politely declined and eventually donated to charity. Over the years, Prue had made it her personal mission to convert Cleo to pink appreciation. Every gift was some shade of pink, accompanied by lectures about trying different shades and suggestions that I was somehow limiting my daughter's options. It didn't matter how many times Cleo politely thanked her, but asked for yellow next time. Prue was determined to break down what she saw as unreasonable resistance to femininity. The situation reached a breaking point when my father invited us for dinner, promising a surprise for the kids. My younger sister, who still lived with our father, sent me a warning text that made my blood run cold. The surprise was actually a birthday party Prue had planned for Cleo, which was bizarre since Cleo's birthday had been in November and we were now in late January. My son's birthday was coming up in March, so the timing made no sense. But the photos my sister sent revealed the true horror of Prue's plan. Every single decoration was pink. The table, tableware, balloons, banners, even pink foil fringe curtains glued to the doors. The cake was pink. This wasn't a party for Cleo. It was Prue's fantasy of what she thought my daughter should want, imposed without any consideration for the actual child's preferences. I knew exactly how Cleo would react. She'd start crying immediately and refuse to participate. This wasn't about being spoiled or ungrateful. This was about a 5-year-old being forced to celebrate herself with everything she actively disliked. Imagine someone throwing you a party decorated entirely with spiders if you were arachnophobic, then calling you ungrateful when you didn't appreciate their thoughtfulness. My husband and I made the decision not to subject our daughter to this psychological manipulation disguised as kindness. I texted my father, "Hey, sister told me everything. We're not coming. We're taking the kids to McDonald's and telling them that was your surprise. You and Prue can come if you want. We're paying." We did exactly that. My father showed up without Prue, but his coldness was palpable. He stayed 20 minutes and left, clearly upset that we'd rejected what he saw as his girlfriend's generous gesture. The aftermath was swift and predictable. Both he and Prue were furious, accusing me of dismissing a heartfelt gesture and raising my daughter to be an ungrateful brat. But Prue's response revealed the deeper issue lurking beneath her obsession with pink. She accused me of making Cleo restrictive because I also dislike pink, claiming I was raising her to be unwilling to compromise. This assumption was particularly frustrating because my children don't even know I dislike pink. They've chosen pink gifts for me in the past, and according to my son, I love all the colors. The truth was more complex and more troubling. Prue wasn't just pushing pink. She was uncomfortable with any of Cleo's preferences that didn't align with traditional femininity. When Cleo's November birthday party had a Super Mario Bros. Theme, Prue actually questioned why I was allowing that. She disapproved of my husband letting Cleo watch Formula One racing with him and made subtle comments about Cleo's boyish interests that revealed her belief that I was somehow failing to properly feminize my daughter. After heated family discussions, we arranged a meeting with my father and Prue to establish clear boundaries. We demanded 3 things: no more surprise parties without our knowledge and approval, no more pushing pink onto Cleo, including pink gifts, and no more calling our children spoiled for being allowed to dislike something. If they couldn't agree, we'd significantly reduce contact. The conversation revealed the extent of Prue's delusions. When I asked why she was so insistent on pink, she claimed she knew Cleo actually loved it but just didn't know it yet. When my husband asked if she'd be equally pushy about blue, she replied, "She doesn't need to like blue." The double standard was glaring. Pink was somehow essential in a way no other color could be. My husband delivered the reality check that should have been obvious. She doesn't need to like pink either. He told Prue she had no right to decide what our daughter should like, and that if she couldn't respect a child's preferences, she didn't need to be around our children. Both my father and Prue agreed to our terms, though I suspected Prue's compliance was more strategic than genuine. I had a separate conversation with my father, warning him that enabling his girlfriend's behavior would destroy his relationship with me and his grandchildren. He promised it wouldn't happen again. For several months, things seemed better. Prue stopped pushing pink gifts and avoided the obvious boundary violations, but her underlying attitude remained unchanged. I could see her making visible efforts not to comment on Cleo's non-traditional interests, but the disapproval was still there, simmering beneath the surface. The facade cracked when Cleo excitedly discussed her upcoming 6th birthday party. She and her best friend had decided on a joint Wicked-themed celebration, with Cleo dressing as Elphaba and her friend as Glinda. Prue's expression shifted the moment Cleo mentioned choosing the green-skinned, unconventional character over the pink princess. That night, I received a lengthy text message that revealed everything Prue had been holding in. The text was a manifesto of frustration and judgment. Prue accused me of influencing my daughter, raising her to be a tomboy because I thought it was cool, and failing as a mother by not letting my daughter be special on her birthday. She claimed Cleo was confused and that I wasn't letting her be herself, the irony of which was staggering given that everything Prue wanted was the opposite of what my daughter naturally preferred. The message about F1 racing was particularly telling. She was bothered that my husband shared his interests with our daughter, as if father-daughter bonding over sports was somehow inappropriate. This wasn't about pink anymore. It was about Prue's rigid beliefs about gender roles and her inability to accept a child who didn't fit her narrow definition of appropriate femininity. That text message was the final straw. Both my husband and I blocked Prue immediately. I sent my father a screenshot with a clear message. We were drastically reducing contact with her. We'd only see her at unavoidable family events like Christmas Eve, and if she tried to pull any manipulative stunts in front of the children, we'd cut ties permanently. My father's response was telling. He asked if he could change my mind, and when I said no, he simply replied that he agreed. This suggested he'd been aware of Prue's behavior all along, but had chosen to enable it rather than address it. His quick acceptance also indicated that protecting his relationship with his grandchildren mattered more than defending his girlfriend's increasingly unreasonable behavior. The situation highlighted how adults can disguise control and manipulation as love and concern. Prue genuinely believed she was helping my daughter by trying to force her to like pink and embrace traditional femininity. In her mind, I was the problem for allowing my child to have preferences that didn't align with gender stereotypes she considered appropriate. But children aren't projects to be molded according to adult preferences. They're individuals whose autonomy deserves respect even at age 5. Cleo's hatred of pink wasn't a phase to be corrected or a problem to be solved. It was simply part of who she was. Trying to force her to like something she actively disliked wasn't kindness. It was a form of emotional manipulation that taught her that her own preferences didn't matter. The most insidious aspect was how Prue framed her behavior as caring while painting me as the villain for protecting my daughter's right to be herself. This kind of gaslighting, where the person establishing healthy boundaries becomes the bad guy, is common in toxic family dynamics. Prue positioned herself as the loving grandmother figure trying to help, while I was the mean mother preventing my child from embracing her true femininity. The birthday party incident wasn't really about pink at all. It was about power, control, and the right of adults to override children's clearly expressed preferences. If Prue had thrown a yellow and blue party reflecting Cleo's actual favorite colors, or a science-themed party honoring her interests, or even just asked what kind of party my daughter might want, none of this would have happened. Instead, she chose to center everything around the one thing she knew my daughter despised, then positioned our refusal to subject Cleo to this as ingratitude and poor parenting. The disconnect between calling something a gift while completely ignoring the recipient's preferences revealed the true nature of her motivations. 8 months later, as I write this final update, Cleo has discovered she actually likes one specific shade of pink, a deep magenta she calls purple pink. She still hates every other pink variation, but this small development proves that children's preferences can evolve naturally when they're not being pressured or manipulated. The difference is that this was her own discovery, made without coercion or judgment. The exhaustion I feel thinking about this entire situation stems from one simple fact. All of this drama, conflict, and family division happened because a grown woman couldn't accept that a child hates a color. The amount of emotional energy, relationship damage, and stress created over something so fundamentally trivial reveals how quickly boundary violations can escalate when left unchecked. Protecting your children sometimes means accepting that you'll be painted as the villain by people who mistake control for love. The adults who truly care about your child will respect their preferences, celebrate their individuality, and support their natural development, rather than trying to reshape them according to personal agendas disguised as affection. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to let someone else's vision of who your child should be override who your child actually is. Cleo will grow up knowing that her preferences matter, her autonomy is respected, and that loving adults don't try to change fundamental aspects of her personality to make themselves more comfortable. That lesson is worth every difficult conversation, every family conflict, and every accusation of being overprotective. Because at the end of the day, my daughter gets to be herself, pink-free and perfectly happy about it.